Hello there, and welcome to my Arty Corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter. I'm an artist and I'm particularly inspired by pattern and nature and architecture and texture. And I love colour, even though I'm not very good at combining colours at times. Very stylised work. I'm best known for my adult colouring books, but I like all kinds of things. So I'll just say thank you to everybody who's subscribed, given thumbs ups, clicked the notification button, left lovely comments, shout outs, tags for me to see your work in social media, even though I'm not very good at finding it, so please bear with me. And just say that if you're here, whether you're visiting again and you like what I do, or you're here for the first time, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the bell so you get notifications. It doesn't cost you anything, it's completely free. Okay, so with no further ado, let's have a look at what I've got in front of me. I'll talk about this. I've had a request to draw a simple flower and in a colouring book style, and show how I'd colour it with coloured pencils, and also a request that I do some more of the kind of very dimensional zentangle-y, abstract patterny kind of thing. And so I'm going to do that, and I was asked to do it all in one video. So what's likely to happen in this video, I'm just giving you a heads up, is that I'll get so far with something, and then when I start to repeat things, I'll either carry on recording or I'll cut through. If I carry on recording, there's going to be sort of time lapse or sped up versions, and I'll put music to that, because voiceovers and me, timing how long it takes to something so it fits in exactly. Can't do that. It takes me far too long. So let's have a look. So, but that's the plan. Whether it goes that way is an entirely different matter. So what I've got here is I've got a selection of paper that I have coloured with some distress inks. These are two I did in my previous video, not the previous one, the one before, and they are on the Sea White all media paper that's in my sketchbooks. I like these, but I think I might need just a little bit more space. So what I've done today is I've cut up some Clairefontaine all media paper and I've coloured it. I've got two squares which are, actually they are the same size. You look at it like that, you actually do think, I think that one looks bigger than this one, but it's not. They're exactly the same size, and they are about, let me have a look. They're just a little bit over 4 inches by 4 inches, which is about 10 and a bit centimetres. This one is about, let me have a look, 2, 4, 6, 7, about 7.5 inches by 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit inches, and this one is the same size roughly. I quite like the shapes of these ones, these long thin ones. Bearing in mind that I knew I'd be drawing flowers, I've used colours here that do have some flowery colour on. This one's quite nice, but I'm not really feeling it, so I'm going to put that one to one side. This one's got little patches of colour, but I'm not so sure about that one. I do like this one though, because there's green there, and this one I think might be a little bit too deeply coloured for what I've got planned today. It's a bit washed out on the camera. We turn the light off and perhaps you'll see a bit, mind you, there's sunlight streaming it, well, because the sun's so high, because it's summer here in the United Kingdom, the Northern Hemisphere, it's high in the sky, so I've got plenty of light, but it's not direct sunlight, so but it's still washing the colours out a bit. But you can see there's it's a bit darker than I'd want to use, especially if I'm going to add colour on top. I'm more interested in getting colour behind patterns and then working with that. So we'll use this one. And I'm just going to take my trusty pencil and I'm going to draw a border within here. I'm not too worried if it's exactly the same size or anything, it's just a guide, that's why I do it in pencil, not pen, so that at the end of the process I can erase it. And as I say, it's just a guide. If my drawing spills out from this, then my drawing spills out from it. I've also got an 03 and an 01, well, these are uni pins, Sakura microns or other fine liners would be an equivalent. I could use fine liners that have got water soluble inking, because at the moment I'm not planning on using water soluble media to add colour, but you just never know. Let me just adjust the actually it's looking fuzzy because I've got my glasses on. That's fine. So I'm having a moment. So I was asked about flowers in a kind of colouring book kind of style. My kind of style is really quite simple, and I'm going to draw them quite big, and there's a lovely bit of pink here that I want to make use of. It's almost circular, and yes, I know flowers don't have pink centres generally, but in my world, my little world, I can have them any kind of colour I like, as can you. That is the fun bit about creating very stylised drawings, is that they represent something, but they're not a direct, exact representation of something that there is in nature. So I did put a pencil circle here so that I could keep my petals roughly. So I create a circular edge to this around here. This is one of my go-to kinds of flowers, especially when they're nice and big. And as I've been asked to add colour with coloured pencils, I need big areas to work in rather than teeny tiny ones. Not because I can't work in teeny tiny ones, of course you can. You just need sharp pencils. But it's more to do with making it visible for you. So if I was to draw lots of teeny tiny things, I'd be zoomed in and I'd be going off screen all the time. So I'm drawing a little bit bigger than I ordinarily would, with that in mind. Beside me I have got my visual reference book, my Zibaldoni, my journal, pattern journal, whatever you like to call it, a bit of random paper there, which is still stuck under my fingernail, thumbnail. Okay. So with these I've got kinds of the tops of hearts on the edge, but I haven't joined them towards the top. I've started a little bit way down the separating areas, which could be sort of like very long, thin, rounded, leafy shapes, or they could be what's visible of leaves. And here I'm just going through and I'm doing this little bit of adding little bits of ink where lines connect and where there's dips in the lines. So I'm going around the outside of my flower first, and I'm using the finer pen for doing this because I get a neater end product. It's easier to fill these tiny gaps in with a finer pen and to create lines that are quite nice as well. But I haven't finished doing this yet, adding ink and weight. Got a couple of these I didn't do on the first round, so that works nicely. Okay, I want to do the same at the bottom. So here though I'm creating like little triangles, but the sides of the triangles sort of curve inwards, so they're more of a point, you know, almost like an arrowhead on an arrow. You know what I mean. I think you can see what I'm doing. I sometimes try to explain things in words that aren't always easy to explain in words. It's a lot easier to say, look, like this. I might just add some extra weight there. Now, because I know I'm going to be adding colour with coloured pencils, any details in pen I put here will be essentially coloured over and are unlikely to be visible. So I'm not going to stress myself out about putting lots of detail in here. If I was going to use water-soluble media that's transparent, or, you know, at the very least translucent so you can see through, then I would make a big fuss about this. But here and now I'm not going to. And I also am going to thicken, oddly, the line on the right for some unknown reason. Perhaps, well, it's on the right as I'm moving this around. But ultimately, when you look at this, you'll see that, oh gosh, I need to tidy up a little bit here and there. See that there's, the consistency is in how that thick line repeats around this rather than from the point of view of a light source. So I'm creating those thick lines as part of the pattern. So, gosh, I've got little bits of paper everywhere, I don't know where they're coming from. So there's that one. So if you have one flower, you really need more than one, don't we? So I'm going to draw a couple more of these. What I'll do before I'll stop the filming, draw them, and then come back. But to decide where I'm going to put them, I am going to draw in my outer circle. And in fact, I might actually put more than just 2 more in, I think. That's quite a nice arrangement, I think. So I'm going to start with each of them by popping my centres in. I'm going to look at this one and I can see that this needs to be the darker side, and this one around here needs to be thicker as well. So I'll do that before I start adding anything else in. I'll do the same here. I'm not trying to make anything a particular size or proportion one to the other. I'm going to vary everything a little bit because I just think it will work nicely, and because it mimics nature, because in nature flowers look very similar, but when you compare them on that kind of closer look, a closer view, there are variations. So I'm happy to have variations as well. So I'm just taking my time with adding the ink. I often do draw very quickly because I'm conscious of the time it takes to do things. But sometimes slowing down really does give me that opportunity to, yeah, that's better. And then this one, perhaps, can't tuck it behind. I'm not tucking any of these behind. We're not getting that complicated quite. Perhaps have one that's a little bit, yeah, one that's a little bit smaller in comparison to the size of the petals, and in fact quite small in the middle, so we're going to have very big petals on this one. There we go. So I've got that one done. Oh, you know what I've done? I've put the black at the bottom. It is what it is. I'm not going to stress, I'm not going to fret. That one is what it is, and I said about variation. So I'm going to go and finish these off in the same way I did the first one, and then I'll be back in a short while. Okie dokes, that's all of those flowers now inked in, and I think I can see the difference from the first one to the others, how I've got bolder with the ink. But it's fine, it is what it is. I'm not going to fuss with it. because if I try to fuss with things too much, then everything ends up in just a bit of a pickle. Now then, I've got to decide how I add anything to these, and I think I would like to add just some leaves, and I'll do these here. So my leaves are going to be kind of, they'll have a point and they'll come around like that. It's a kind of S shape. There's a small curve on the S here and a much bigger one, if you follow my meaning. That's quite nice, and I am going to pop a central vein in, and I'm going to, I can see here where I've got the dark shadow this side, so I'm going to make sure that is in keeping with these, and I'm also going to add some weight at the ends of these lines, and I've made that line on this lower side the same side as where I've thickened the line darker as well. So we'll have a couple more. I'm not going to put them everywhere because I want to do something else as well with the background. So again, here's my leaf, so I'm going to make that a bit thicker. I think I might just make the underneath a bit thicker. So I'm sort of like changing the rules just a little bit here, just to make the leaves that little bit more interesting. And I'm definitely going to have one in this corner, and I can see where my corner is, so down that way, and I overrun that line a little bit, so I'm just going to change that thickness of that line a little bit underneath the, where I'm adding these little weightings at the bottom of my leaf lines, as it were. And then let's do this again. We can do that, thicken that side as well. Oh, I haven't done those little weights at the bottom of the leaves because that will be quite nice. It just makes it feel a bit like stained glass. If you ever look at stained glass, where the lead that holds the pieces in place is soldered, you get that kind of little bit of roundness happening there, which, you know, I've got a bit of a thing for stained glass. I'm just having a look here and seeing where else I might like to pop a leaf. I think one would fit in quite nicely here. And this is all kind of personal preference. It's all entirely up to you if you're going to draw these, what you do. And just add as many or as few as you feel you want to. I mean, I tend to go over the top at times and just never know when to finish. But the two on the end just, and the one in the middle just didn't feel right. But I also think, now I'm tempted to put one here, but I also want to put something here because we've got a bit of an awkward shape here. And I just think that would just finish things nicely in this little gap to make that space there just a bit less odd, I suppose, or awkward in some ways. So let's do that. And just make sure I've done that. That's great. I'm looking. I think a small one here. I may do more leaves than I expected, but you don't know until you do it. That's the thing. So I've got that there. And is there anywhere else? Seems like I want to pop one here as well. This is my problem. I never know when to stop, and when I get to the end I think I should have stopped several leaves back. But it is what it is, and you work with what you create, and as I'm working in ink, I can't change it. If I'd sketched this out in pencil to begin with, I'd be able to alter things. I think so. I feel I want to pop one in there, and I think I will, because I won't be happy unless I do. And it's just that feeling of awkwardness there that I want to do something about. We'll have a look when I've done this one, and hopefully that will be enough. Now again, with these leaves, I could put veins in. Now you see I've got awkward spaces and gaps everywhere now. No, I'm going to leave it like that and see what happens. This and this here could do with a leaf, I think. Yeah, let's do that. And I've still got plenty of space around this then to do things like add some tangle patterns that we can muck around with, volume and dimension with. Okay, and then here nice and short leaf just to tidy this particular shape up. Let me just do my little bit of weighting. I'm not switching to the smaller pen for this. That feels better, though I think I might, there's a gap here, so I may as well complete leaves everywhere, because, well, I've started, so I'll finish. Okie dokes. So let's just weight the bottom of the line, thicken the ends of the lines with those little shapes. And we've got something here. Okay, now then, I'm going to make use of the tangle patterns I've done in my last, got little bits of paper coming off everywhere here. I don't know why, I don't know where they're appearing from. In my last couple of videos, the spoolies, I think, because I think they'd look quite nice here because they would create almost like shells sticking out. So I'm going to start with the circle, and I'm going to think about where I want the that end of the spoolie to stick out, and I think that would be quite nice. Now I'm going to add, so I know I'm going to add weight to this one later on, so we'll do it that way, and then it's just a question of creating these. So I'm not going to fill the whole of the space in with these, I don't think, because I think I'd like something a bit different. But I just think that having something that looks like a snail, a shell, would be quite nice. And just one more, just to fill that little gap up and make sense of it. And we'll do that. Oops. That was a bit of a calamity there, but it'll be fine. So I've got these darker lines are towards the right and so on, but I'm not going to worry about that, but I am going to create these thicker lines here where it begins to go, what appears to go underneath this particular line here, just to start getting that sense of volume and dimension. And so it's more about playing with the pattern for the particular motif or patterns. Sorry, let me say that again. It's more about making a pattern with line thickness and shadow and weight and so on that is part of that particular pattern that I am drawing. I do think I may need to just thicken these a little bit more. So once I've got it where I like it, then I'll do my best to make all the others, all the other of these shapes very similar in how I add the line weights. I'm going to add some darkness to these ones as well as they come out from here. Okay. And that one at the top I won't worry about because we'll disguise it. So I'm going to carry on adding these as I see fit. I'm going to try to put clusters of 3 here and there, some here, here and over here. I may not get 3 in, but we'll see what happens. I think I can fit 3 in here and perhaps 1 each in each of these spaces, and then I'll come back when I've done that. They'll all look similar to that, so I've gone over that with you. So see you in no time for you, in a little while for me. Well, I'm back. No time at all for you, but most probably I don't know how long for me. And I'm just looking at this, and I think there may be enough of these spoolies there, these particular patterns. That one needs a bit more contrast. I'll work on that in a moment. But I'm quite happy with what's there, because I feel then if I'm going to fill in gaps between them and this little corner, I need something that's perhaps a little bit more open. But I haven't made my mind up as to what that will be yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get my coloured pencils, sort out what colours I want to use. I'm going to pick colours that will tie in with the background. So I'll want bluey greens and I'll want some lovely pinky colours. I know what I want. And I may use some yellow for the centre because it will colour over, but I'll go and see. And so I'll be back in a moment once I've done that. Okay, I'm back. So I've had a good fertle around. The only coloured pencils that I've got now are the Derwent Colour Soft, which I actually do like because they blend beautifully. But in my pot of them I also found a couple of these blender pencils which help to blend the colours one into another in a very nice way. So you can see here I've tested out on paper some of my colour blends, and I'll tell you what they are. So did I go for blackberry? No, I didn't. I don't know why I've got that one still out. I have got petrol grey, which I can use to darken things up, as well as I've got an indigo here somewhere there. So these are my sort of like contrast colours. No, that's petrol grey. My contrast colours to increase that kind of contrast. For the greens, I've got, for the leaves, I've got deep green, I've got a light green, and I have a mid green, but I think the mid green might be redundant because the dark green will blend with the green to create that colour. So I'll pop those together somewhere. I've decided to do the centres of the flowers in yellows, and for that, for the lighter shade, I've got a pale peachy colour, which is slightly pinky, but I think it'll work fine. I've got, and also because it would be more of the highlights, highlights need to be a slightly warmer colour, I've learned, than the rest of them, just to help to bring them out. Oh, I've forgotten to get a highlight colour for these. I think the light green will be fine for that. I've got pale orange, I've got deep cadmium, and I've also got a bright orange, which gives me this colour blend here. So I'll pop those off to the side. And then for the petals, I've decided to pick colours that go with these pinky colours in the background. And I've got bright purple, which will be my darkest colour, then deep fuchsia, which is the next darkest, then pink lavender, which is a lovely, well, pinky lavender there, and then this one here is just pink. So you can see that I've gone for the bright purple. Oddly, the bright purple is the darkest colour, but you can see I've gone for, I think in all cases, 4 colours to get the blends. This is just my preference, this is how I'll do it. Instead I've got these here, sort of a bit of chiaroscuro, I suppose, you know, making sure I've got the really dark shadows. I haven't got any colours for the spoolies yet. I haven't decided on those, so I'll come back to that once the rest is done. I may actually use greens in that, but much paler colours, because a friend sent me some pictures of snails on plants, you know, hidden in leaves and things, and they were the most lovely colours. of sort of like a very pale yellow, almost cream colour, and a lovely green, so I might use those colours for these spoolies, but I'll see what happens. I'm just erasing my coloured pencil, my pencil lines before I start adding anything else, because they will show through. Well, they could potentially do that, but it's also nice just to have that tidy up now before I go any further. Should have done that when I'd finished. So I hope you like how that's looking. I'm quite pleased with it. I've got some blank spaces because I genuinely don't know what I want to do in them, but we'll have a look. So I think I'll start with my with the petals, because these pencils are here, and so I'm going to start where I want the lightest colour. Now I often put a highlight sort of like a little way in from the edge, not right on the edge, and so I get this feeling of edges fading away. So I'm going to start with my lightest colour, and I could leave some of the background showing through as well, because it is that little bit lighter than this, but I'm not going to. So I'm using a very light hand and just going back and forth until I've got what I think is enough colour down. Then the next one, I'm just going to overlap these two so they blend. And again this side. And I most probably will do each petal individually. This is going to take me an age. So I'll do a whole flower and a leaf with you here and now, or most of a whole flower and a leaf. I'm then going to go back to the lighter colour and just blend along the edges a little bit here, just to try to blend them in before I use my blending pencil. My third darkest shade, or my second darkest shade, is this colour. And again, I'm overlapping these, and they do blend. These colour soft pencils are really lovely. They really do blend easily. And I don't know if you notice, I'm beginning to put some shadow on either side of the petals where these areas overlap, you know, where these bits are. So I'm just going to do that, trying to keep the shapes organic-ish. And then I'm going to use my darkest colour here, where I want the shadows to be the darkest. I'm just adding a little bit along the edge there, and I think I may need to add, I'm going to try on my scrap piece of paper. So I'm going to put some of this purple down, and then here I'm going to put some of the petrol grey here, and I also have indigo, because the indigo might work. No, the indigo won't, because it's too blue, but we'll double check. I'm just going to clean the ends of these pencils so I'm not carrying weird colours to mix, and let's have a look and see if the indigo will, because blue will create a shadow. You can see how these help them just to blend, and this one, I think a little hint of the petrol grey might do it. I'm just looking around to see if I've got a pencil sharpener to hand. I actually don't think I have, which is rather worrying, because normally I've got tons of them. There may be one on the shelf. Although I'm wondering, I do want a bit more contrast right in the nook and cranny here. So a little bit of this might work. I've got a sneaky suspicion that if I put this down first, it will be less of a difference than if I put it on top. So let me go back to my darkest colour and just go over that grey. And then I'm going to use one of these blending pencils. I'm going to start with the lightest colour and just blend it out a little at a time. You don't need a lot of pressure with these. It's not about scrubbing hard with them, but it's enough that you can just get that blend there. And if I think I've got too much of a highlight, which I may have here, I can just come back with one of the darker colours and just add a little layer over the top and blend it in again. And if I want more of a highlight, I could use a white pencil. The problem is my white pencils are so small with what I'm left. Let's see, can I find one? I've got one here. But I can just add some white across the centre of this, hopefully, which helps to bring that colour up, or the highlight up a little bit. And so I've got that there now, and I will just blend that in as well. I'm just doing this very gently, so I get a nice smooth blend. There are lots of things you can use to do this. There are many brands of blender pencils. It's finding which ones you like. The Prismacolor ones are really nice. The Caran d'Ache All Blender, I think they're called. They're actually solid blending stuff, so you get a lot of blending things for those. They're wax based. These are nice. They've got a bit of a gritty feel. It's almost like they really do move things around. These remain pretty matte, and you can get burnisher pencils which put a shiny surface on, so the colours become more vibrant as well. And I don't think I have any of those left. I could be wrong, but there are other ways of bringing out shine if I want to. So let me do the next petal, and I'm going to start with working from dark to light this time, and let's see if there's a difference. There shouldn't be. It tends to be personal preference. I think traditionally people always started with light to dark, but I can be a bit of a heretic. You may have heard me say often, it's sort of like, just because somebody tells you this is how you do it, it may be sort of like the orthodox wisdom, but if you find a way that works for you, that gives you the effects that you like, well, all's fine and well and good as far as I'm concerned. You know, there's no such thing as the colouring police. Let me tell you, none whatsoever. So here I'm just overlapping that lighter colour quite a bit, and I'm going to go back with my medium tone and pop some of that over the top. And then, or one of my medium tones, this is the next to darkest. I'm just going to pop that on, and then let's do some blending. Starting, and I will with blending start with the lightest colour because I want to keep that colour as light as I can. So I don't want to blend darker colours into it. And just cleaning that up over here. And then down here, just going back, and I will add some white over the top here again. Just to lighten that area up a little bit and to blend it in. There's no difference, is there really, between one and the other, where I've used, which order I've used the colours or put them in. As I say, it's personal preference. It's just being aware that you need to overlap them a little time. And also, coloured pencils, use paper that's got a bit of tooth to it, it's got a bit of texture, and don't press too hard. You don't want to lose that tooth because that is where the pencil sinks into the paper and gets held there. So I'm going to finish. I'm not going to be able to do all of this in one go today. Excuse me. Oh gosh. Oh, so sorry. But I think I'll tackle perhaps the yellow centres next. And let's have a look at that. For this one I do want to think about where I'm going to put my highlight to begin. So my highlight is definitely going to be up around here. So I've popped some highlight there. Now then, I've actually got colours that are very similar. This is deep cadmium, which is a lovely kind of goldeny yellow. So I'm going to add this around that highlight. I'm going to try and overlap it. It's difficult to see where I've put that highlighted area, but you can tell because the pencil doesn't cover it as much. So I'm just filling that with this. I'm going to go to the slightly darker colour, and I'm putting colour over that last one. I'm making the edges blend, but I'm also putting it around the outside edge of this particular part of the flower. And then I have here, oops, because I need to throw it everywhere, some orange, which will really add that slightly darker tone around the edge. Contrast most probably isn't as big as I'd like it, but we'll see now. So let me just tidy up my blending pencil, and let's start to give this a blend. I'm actually moving my pencil in little circles as I do this, so I'm constantly blending from, you know, one area into the other and making a smooth blend. And again, it's just a very light pressure. Yeah, I think that the light colour I've got here is just too light, so I think I'll just pop a little bit of cadmium yellow on the top and blend that in and leave that as it is. So I'm not going to use that pale peach. It's just not visible in any way, shape or form. Have I got a lighter colour? I've got lemon yellow. It's a bit lemony. Let's have a look and see. It's much lighter, and that'll be fine, I think. So that's my middle one. Now this ring I also want to do in yellows, so I'm going to think about where I want to put the highlights, and so I'm going to pop my lemon yellow in, and I do want it so this appears to be a ring almost, so I am putting a ring of that colour. Then I'm going to go to my next darkest colour, and again they're going to overlap just that little bit on the outside and the inside. Then I'm going to go to the pale orange and practically fill this area in, again overlapping them. This is where my contrast is needed. I really need a brown, but I couldn't find a suitable browny colour, but we'll go with this. I'm sure there's one in there. And around here as well. I'm trying to avoid getting any pencil on my black lines because it will dull them, because these aren't transparent. Some of the colours are sort of translucent and let the black show through, but not always. So here I'm using these darker areas as a guide for where I'm going to put the darker orange, and then I'm going to start to blend this out. Oh, there's some muck on that bit. Just to pick something up on my blender pencil. Now this is very, very vibrant. I think I'd prefer something that is really a bit less colourful. I'm using some white here just to increase the highlights. White can also be used as a burnisher almost, in that it polishes the colours up where you put them. So it's just one of those odd things that it does. So we've got that there. So we've got this. Okay, so some of the green. Now with the green, I think I may use the indigo as my darker undercolour. First find the indigo. Oh, it's over there. There we go. So I'm going to put the indigo where I want the greens to be darkest. So I'm going to have these leaflets here, or whatever they are, sort of like bending over or curving upwards. So I want them darkest close to the centre and further away. And I need the shadows to actually extend up a little bit from this. So we're creating sort of like U's with a thick bottom, if you like, here. So let me start with the lightest green, which I'm going to put where I want the highlights, and I'm going to try and keep the highlights in the same kind of place or area all the way round. Be all the way round, so this highlight would extend in almost a perfect ring around these. So that's my lightest colour, so I'm now going to overlap that with the medium colour, which is my lighter green. So I don't think I'm going to need the mid green, because I think the dark green and this medium green will mix nicely enough. And I've got the indigo then to make the dark green darker, as it were. So I'll pop the mid green away, because it means I've got fewer pencils out of my desk as well. So yeah, I'm just popping that dark green in, and I am putting it over the indigo because I want the indigo underneath it to add colour. You can see there are areas here where there's no indigo, hopefully you can see anyway. So I've got an overlap here. And again, I'm using quite a light hand. So when you do that, you can build up layers of colour until you get the intensity of colour you'd like. I'll show you. So if I take a dark colour, like dark green, on my piece of scrap paper here, which happens to be the same paper as this, then I can start with very light, a light hand, which is what I'm doing, and then if I go back over and 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 over, and perhaps increase the pressure a little bit, not too much because you don't want to flatten all the texture in the paper, you can build up a gradient of colour like this. So you can go from practically no colour to an awful lot of dark colour by just gradually building it up and getting a smooth gradient. But that's not what I'm doing here. Well, I am, but it's in a smaller scale and overlapping colours, so it's not quite so easy to see. Okay, let me just clean this up. I always keep scrap paper beside me when I'm using a colouring or a blender pencil, so I can clean them off. And so I'm going to start with the lightest green. Just blend that out. So any gaps there are in your colouring, when you use a blending pencil or blending solutions, if you prefer that, you can get solutions and pens that are filled with a solution that help with blending these out. I don't use them because even the odourless one, my chest doesn't like it, sets my asthma off, so I prefer to use this pencil, and yeah, it takes a little bit of time. But with the solutions, you use a paper stump or a tortillon, you just moisten the end a little bit with the blending solution, and then you do exactly the same as I'm doing here. But what that does is it does dissolve the pencil a little bit and moves it around. Now then, I think I might like a bit of this lemon yellow right in the middle, just to give something a little bit different and a bit more of a highlight there, perhaps. I'm just going to use my blending pencil just to go like this. And then what I have here as well is that sometimes what helps with this to bring the colours out is to use just a paper towel and to give everything a bit of a rub afterwards. You can see it picks up all the loose, I don't know if you can see, it picks up all the loose pigment and stuff that's been moved around, and you can see where perhaps there's a little bit of more blending needed doing where there's little gaps, and it means that all of that loose pencil doesn't get moved around on your paper and muck it up. So I'm not entirely sure I've done a good job with colours, because I'm never very good at picking colours, but it is what it is. The leaves, again, I'll do a leaf here, and I think for this I'm going to keep this fairly simple, where I'm going to make around the edges quite light. And I'm going to gradually get that little bit darker. In fact, part of me thinks I'd have been better off doing this without the darker colours, just keeping the lighter colours. I do say many times I'm no expert at choosing colours. In fact, I would say I'm a bit of a disaster at it, to be honest. Now I'm going to have to intensify under here to create a layer, so I think here, instead of using the blue, I think I might use that petrol grey, and I am adding a darker colour along the edge here. And I'll do it on this side as well, because I want that highlight along the edge here, but I still want it to feel like the edge of the paper is curling downwards. So I'm just going to go back with this colour and just go over these, just to, this starts to help blending the colours in, but also it means you're adding that little bit more colour to these, and it all helps. So I've got plenty of the mid-tone, I need the dark tone. Blimey, it's got so hot here. So I'm not going to finish all of this in one go today, because I need to go somewhere cool, I'm afraid, or cooler for a while. So I'll definitely do a couple of parts to this, possibly, or I may actually use this as a way of trying out different media. So here I'm using the petrol grey right underneath where I want a darker shadow, which I could have done before I added the colour if I stopped and thought, but either way it'll work. Part of me thinks actually putting the dark colour underneath makes a bit more sense, because it will always be there. This way I'm blending it out a bit much. But I really haven't got that intensity that I'm looking for underneath here. So try on a different leaf very quickly. Let me put the petrol grey down first where I want those really intense shadows to be. And this is where different parts are overlapping more than anything else. So you can see where I'm putting it there. And then I'm going to start with the darkest colour. I'm going to put that over the top so that the two will mix. It's about mixing colours, layer by layer. Like so, and perhaps put some along the edge, and perhaps this is how I prefer to work, is working from dark to light with this. So we'll add some of the mid-tone, bearing in mind that I need to overlap this and leave a space for the highlight, which is this one, and I am spreading that over that mid-tone quite a bit, so I get a good blend between the two colours. And then let's have a look at this. Again, I'm just going to clean this pencil off here. You can see how much colour comes off. It just helps that then I don't have the lightest colour getting mucky. I'm able to blend from light to dark. Like so, and I'm just going to clean that now just to make sure, and then we're going to do light to the dark edge on this side. Glad I didn't say the dark side. I don't do the dark side. Sorry, Star Wars, what can I say? Jedi. In my mind I'm a Jedi, but I want to be one that doesn't have to fight, because I couldn't do that, either physically or emotionally. Yeah, it's true. Every 10 years in the UK, and I'm sure other countries do the same, there's a census. And one of the sections on the census is asking you what your religion is. And for the last, I don't know, 3-4 censuses I've had to fill in, mine has been Jedi Knight, just because you can say what you like there. And as far as I'm concerned, it's, you know, it's a comment on society and so on. So yeah, I'm one of the, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people in the UK do that. So there we are. So this one I've got a lot more contrast by putting the shadows down first than the colour first and adding the shadow on top. Now I said that I'm pretty atrocious at choosing colours, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple of different greys here. Hopefully I want a pale one. That's brown. I've got a pale grey. That's a white grey. Ooh, fab. And what colour is this one? It's a pale lavender, except it looks greyish colour. Cloud blue, which, see, I can't see the names of the colours here because they are, oh, I've got Persian grey. So these will actually work. And I'm going to have a look at what this would look like if I did this monochrome. Oh yeah, we're going monochrome. Just for got petrol grey, that one. So the rest of them can just go over there. I've got three shades of grey. So let's have a look, because I say often that I'm absolutely useless at choosing colours. So if I go monochrome, really not happy with those colours, see. But monochrome can be really lovely. So I've got that one. I've got Persian grey here, which is slightly lighter. Not a huge amount, but it is slightly lighter. I could do with black actually, I think. So I'm looking at creating a sort of like an arc here that's narrower at the sides, but you know, wider in the middle. So let me have a look at this petrol grey. Let's pop some more of it down just to, oh, that's better. So I really need a pencil sharpener, and I don't know where I've put one, because that's typical. Okay, let's have a look then at this cloud grey. Or no, it's not cloud, it's white grey, which is very pale. That's precisely what I want for a highlight. I'm going to put it over the top of the slightly paler grey than the darker grey. I'll go back to the Persian grey, which is this one, for a moment, and just add some more of that in, overlapping. It is all about layers, and it's a bit, and I find it a bit fussy in some ways, but then, you know, I'm an alcohol marker girl, aren't I? So, okay, let's have a look here and let's see how this blends. So I'm starting with the lightest colour and I'm gradually working my way upwards in the first instance to blend the grey and the lightest colour into the darkest and so on, until hopefully we end up with just the dark colour there. Clean that just a moment, just to get rid of anything dark there, because I'm going to go back to that middle bit and I'm just going to go here like that. The lovely things I've said about this particular pencil is that, or these pencils, is that they really do blend nicely, but with the blender pencil it doesn't create a slick surface after using it, so you can go back and add more colour. I definitely need black or a much darker colour. I need a mid grey as well. What's that one? It's another Persian grey. There's got to be other greys in here. There's got to be a black somewhere. Got a black. Oh, there's a dove grey. That's better. There we go. That'll be better. So I've got black here, so I am going to go and add some black in here. And here. And let's just blend that out and see how that looks now. So, not a good job of blending, but again, it's just working back and forth until you get the smoothness that you like. I've got quite a lot of vertical lines, along the petal rather than any other, so I'm just working back and forth horizontally in the hope that I can get rid of those, clear up what I've created there in the way of mess, and then just to help to bring that highlight out, I'm just adding some white, and I will just go and blend the white in, and it needs to blend on both sides as well, so we get a smoother blend there perhaps. Yeah, I know you can do this with graphite and so on and do it a lot easier, but you've got control over the colours you use here. So if I take a mid-tone here, I could pop some black where I want the shadows greatest on the edges. And up there, and then I can use this at different intensities to create a kind of monochrome, hopefully. So you're getting all kinds of help and advice here, or things to try out, and I'm not saying that any of them are the best way or the only way, or even some people would argue a correct way, but they are things that I'm prepared to try and do, to sacrifice another drawing in the cause of experimental whatevers. So that's just with two colours, well, black, white. I did want the white. Where is the white? The white is here. It's got yellow on it, which is why there was a strange colour last time. So I'll put some white here where the highlight is. Goes on nicely because I didn't colour that in. I'll clean up my blending pencil here, and we'll just blend this and see what happens. So little circles is the best way as far as I'm concerned to do it, because it does help to smooth out any lines that are there. Not all of them. I'm okay for some of them because it adds an interesting texture. So that is with black underneath that pink to give a quite a bit more contrast. So if I go to I was going to use a darker colour to go with that. as the shadows, so I'm going to not use that. Let me go back to my pot. I want bright purple. I was looking for... There's another black there. It's funny, isn't it? I was looking for black earlier and I couldn't find it anywhere. I've got a deep purple here. It's just purple, so if I use this instead of black, still a dark colour. And I'm getting this colour, the lighter colour that I was just using on top. This may create a nicer kind of gradient, or you know, highlights and shadows than the black did. Again, I'll use white in the middle just to create that highlight, and go back with this pinky colour just to go around the highlight to create more areas where I can add colour, I can mix in. Just use that one. That's right, I need this one then, because I want to add a little bit more contrast, a little bit more of this around the edges where there to be shadow, and let's have a look at that. So we've got that there. That actually works a lot better than this, and I feel I prefer that to this. There's only two colours and white really. It's choosing colours with enough contrast and bearing in mind that the density of colour you put down determines how dark you get. I'm disheartened with the colour choices I've made, so I'm unlikely to finish this one. You do know this. Other than I may use something like Inktense, and this is going to be an ever such a long video as it is. So I'm going to stop this here because I've got about 4 parts to put together. It's going to be well over an hour, and think about what else I can do, because I've given you what techniques I know as far as coloured pencils are concerned. My problem is I'm not very good at choosing colours. I'm really rubbish at it, and well, I think I am. Other people disagree, but I'm really not happy here. And I prefer to work in, you know, monochrome, or you know, this kind of simpler kind of colour. I think perhaps I chose too pale a pink to use with the black there, and slightly deeper pink would have worked a lot better. I'm going to carry on experimenting, and you may get a second shorter video today or perhaps tomorrow. It's ever so warm. My brain is beginning to turn to mush with the warmth, and so bear with, and I'll be back to you. But hopefully I've given you enough ideas of how you can apply colours, and choosing colours is really up to you. Don't look to me for help and advice on that one. Contrast, put the darkest colour underneath, okay? Just remember that. And for highlights, put the lightest colour underneath first, and then again afterwards. It's the best way of describing it. Otherwise, sheesh, I'm doing well today. So thank you for sticking with this. As I say, I'll be back and I'll have some other media on here, and I'll talk my way through it, or perhaps demonstrate some, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. So take care, look after yourselves, and above all else, find time to be creative. Ta-ra for now. Bye-bye. Bye.